Rise and shine, it's time for D. It's for drama. I'm your host, Shannon D. And today I am joined by dating coach, matchmaker, and owner of dating event company, Chemeya Dating. From invite-only speed dating events with a personalized matchmaking component to adventurous group date scavenger hunts and dare nights, Chemeya Dating is dedicated to helping people step out of their comfort zones and discover meaningful relationships. Please welcome Evyenía.
Thank you so much for that beautiful introduction, Shannon. I'm so happy to be here.
Of course. Well, I ripped it right from your website. So these are your words, babes.
Plagiarism at its finest.
I have yet to go to one of her events, even though she keeps inviting me and I keep missing them, but I will make it.
Yes.
Because some of your events, like, it's not like fully
So I
focused on dating, right?
I also do social events it's just fun events for anyone regardless of single status. And then I also do private event planning. So it's like I can plan your bachelorette, I can plan your wedding, I can plan a birthday party, whatever. So I do all sorts of stuff.
Oh, fun. Yeah. Which one's your favorite to do?
I really like the immersive scavenger hunt that I do because it's really good for getting people out of their comfort zones, and whether they want to bond with like their current friends or they want to meet new people, it's just really silly and it's so me coded. Like it's just like what I force my friends to do on a weekend anyways. So I love like bringing that to the masses.
And you're like, well, I'll get paid to do it now instead of forcing my friends. So how did you get into matchmaking, doing all the dating events?
So I started off as a matchmaker and dating coach very early on in my working career. I was working for a really big matchmaking service that I think I don't have positive things to say at this point about, so I won't mention the name.
Spill the tea.
It's so much
D is for
tea.
drama.
That is true. I felt like I was there from very, very early like concept startup stages. I saw it through all of its growth, and I worked in the matchmaking side of things. I worked as a match recruiter, I worked as a dating coach, I worked on the product side, I worked on the marketing side. I saw it all, but I also was not getting the respect as I deserved, that I deserved as someone who had been there through it all. I had a really awful boss at one point, the VP of marketing, who gave me such bad imposter syndrome, which your boss should never do that. Your boss should not be the one who gives you imposter syndrome.
No, you got to uplift your employees.
Like make them feel so capable. And she would do it in such a insidious like way of like backhanded compliments or like anyways. But once I stepped out on my own, that was when I really started to feel like such confidence in myself, and where I really felt like I could shine, and where I really got to put my own touch into the dating world and into the events world. I am so like creative and quirky and silly. So I wanted to infuse that into not just modern dating, but also into just modern life and into events. So that's been really fun, and it's been also good for me.
Yeah, because I feel like dating can be so scary and feel like it's a chore. And so putting people in an environment where the pressure's just off, probably.
Yeah, I think that's what I'm constantly hearing from people is just like dating, especially when dating apps were really like kind of the only way people were dating for a while, especially I think around the pandemic era. And even before that, and even continuing on into now, it's just like it's a job.
Yes.
It's a second job. And no one wants another job that they're not even getting paid for. The payoff can be very bad unless you're meeting your person like right away. So like in reality, dating can be very much a numbers game. You're not going to always, it could take a long time. For some people, it's so quick. And for others, it takes them a really long time. So you might as well at least be having fun and enjoying that time. So that's kind of how I like to frame things is like, learn about yourself through dating, have fun through dating, explore through dating. It's not always about the end goal. It's also about the journey. So you might as well make the journey fun.
Well, especially because like, you're with the numbers game, it's not like a typical, I don't know, in these scenarios, you're putting your emotional self into it every time. So you're putting yourself in very vulnerable
Mhm.
positions, or where you can get hurt, or where you're in uncomfortable positions,
Yeah.
especially when it comes to like intimacy. So it's just like extremely discouraging for people.
Yeah, it can be very discouraging. And it's like, I don't know, I like to say that don't give up. I think people like sometimes like they go to like on a couple of app dates, they go to a couple of events, they don't find a match right away. Like that is not your ending. You are going to have a better story than that and a more fulfilling and exciting story than that. So just like keep going through the chapters. And also like think about rom-coms and think about like fun books you're reading, right? Like the main character is always going through like something kind of shitty at first.
Yes.
So it's like you might be at that part of the book, but it's like it's gonna turn around and like there's always gonna be little disasters that happen. So just remember you're still the main character and
Love that.
you gotta like just go through the crappy parts because the readers need some entertainment.
Exactly. And we do too. So bring your stories
Yes.
here.
Yes.
Well, actually, I had a question from a listener that kind of had something to do with what you were just talking about.
Perfect.
She goes, maybe I just have bad time management, but how do you guys find time for dating? So Monday through Friday, I'm working and gym basically 6 a.m. to 6 p.m., then dinner and sleep. Weekends, I'm doing a side hustle and or hanging out with my girlfriends and basic needed chores like meal prepping. I understand for my friends who are already in relationships, it's fairly easy to have time for them since they run in the same social circles, and it's way easier to plan a spontaneous hang if you don't have to worry about perfect makeup, etc. But how do y'all have time to go on first dates? More specifically, how are you motivated to use your limited time on a first date that realistically might not lead to anything instead of using that time with your friends or for yourself? I want to be in a relationship at some point since I'm getting old, which she's not. She's literally 25. So, and would love that stability and constantly having someone to cuddle with and talk. It's something I want, but I've been really struggling with fitting it into my life, which isn't even that busy.
So I think she hit the nail on the head when she said, it's not about time. She said, how do you find the motivation?
Mm-hmm.
I don't think the issue here is a lack of time. I think the issue is the lack of motivation and
Right.
telling herself she doesn't have time. The same way that you're fitting in the gym when you have a full work day and you're probably exhausted. You're making that happen for yourself. The same way that you're fitting in time with your friends, even though you have that weekend side hustle. You can do all of this fitting in a date as well. It really is about how much of a priority it is to you. If something is a priority to you, then just make it happen. Start with little goals. Maybe the first goal is you're going to go on one date a week or even one date a month. Like that, is that so crazy that you're going to spend 2 hours out of a month to work towards this goal of finding a person one day, being with a person one day? I think that when it comes to like having perfect makeup and this and that, I think it's like it can be really fun to get ready for a date and look all cute. But if you're not finding joy in that, then like don't worry about looking perfect.
Mm-hmm.
You said that one thing that you're struggling with is like, I don't want to give up time with my friends on this person who could potentially like mean nothing to me after our date is up. So I would say prioritize doing something that you are glad that you're doing. So maybe there's like a new restaurant that you want to try, or there's an activity that you really enjoy. Make that what the date is so that like you're still getting something positive out of it. Like you're like, okay, I got to try this restaurant. Maybe I didn't like him, maybe I didn't like her, whatever, but I at least got to try this new restaurant I wanted to try, or at least I got to try axe throwing. I've always wanted to try axe throwing.
Killing two birds with one
Exactly.
stone.
As cliche as it can be to say, like I think every date can teach you what you do or don't want in a person.
Totally.
So you're learning in that respect as well. And also
it's not
like
a waste.
it's not a waste because they could also turn into a friend. And if that friend might have a friend who has a friend.
True.
So you just never know. So don't burn bridges when it could lead to something down the line for you.
Mm-hmm.
But just try and find joy in like whether that's, hey, I get to wear this really cute dress, whether that's I get to go to this cocktail bar I've been wanting to go to, whatever it might be. Just find the way. Like, what would a main character in a rom-com do? Do that.
I love that. I'm just gonna live my life like that now.
You should.
What have I been
Absolutely.
doing?
Like romanticize the hell out of your life.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. I do think like committing to maybe twice a month. Because if you think about it, that's not really that much.
It's not. No.
And just kind of carve it out in your life and find something that you want to do.
Yeah.
Because first dates don't always have to just be, dinner and something boring.
Yeah.
Which that leads me into the question that I asked on Instagram. What's the best first date location?
Mm-hmm. What were people saying?
Okay. Well, we have a lot. A lot of people wrote in, and I love these answers because I remember like back in the day when I was dating, it was always just like hanging out, like Netflix and chilling, or like I guess dinner. Like that didn't happen that often, especially like in my early 20s. That was actually something that set Max apart from all these other guys that I was kind of seeing at that time, was that he asked me out on a proper date.
Definitely important.
But we have brunch,
Okay.
daytime, but you can have mimosas for liquid courage. Happy hour drinks, don't commit to a full dinner because then you can like leave whenever. Breakfast, a good way of screening someone out. I guess that's kind of like brunch. Breakfast
I was gonna
seems
say
a little early for me. But
all right, so do you want to go on a date? 6 a.m. breakfast.
I got shit to do. I'm carving out this amount of time for you.
We're gonna have poached eggs.
Our breath will be stankin'. Roller or ice skating, you can see if they can laugh at themselves.
Oh my God.
That's
Imagine just like
cute.
someone breaks a leg.
Yeah. You end up in the ER.
And yes. Yeah. I actually have heard a story about someone was on a date or I don't even know if they were like trying to get to their date and they like tripped and fell and like totally like smashed their face or something, and like an ambulance had to be called. So like that date actually ended in the ER.
Oh my God. And the date went with them?
Yeah.
Oh, it's a good person right there. That's so embarrassing.
Trauma bonding.
But yeah, exactly.
It's
Exactly.
important.
We can add that to the list. ER. Museum or aquarium. They said you can see them in public or around children and can show you their knowledge and interests.
Interesting.
Basically, it's fun and easy to find things to talk about around you while learning how they are socially.
I like that this person is like looking for a baby daddy. They're like, I want to know first date how they are around children.
Just, wean them out early. Escape room.
Cute.
That's kind of fun. Although if
could be a lot for a first date, right? Like, because you're also usually with a group of people. Everyone's like, how do you guys know each other? We're on a first date. We're just meeting right now for the first time.
And you also can't easily escape. Like you have to solve a riddle.
Literally.
To get out of the date.
Literally. That would be such a good horror movie. Yeah. There is a horror movie about escape rooms, but like one that was specifically about being on a really bad date.
On a shitty date. Well, the other thing too is some people get so competitive and they're not their best selves.
Yes.
And they can be like really, I don't know, kind of pretentious or talk down to you if you're like not getting
Which could be a good thing to screen. Yeah.
True.
Like patience is a virtue.
Oh, that's so true. Coffee shop. You can make it as short or long as you want. Drive-in movie. Love that.
What are we in the 1960s?
Exactly. Arcade and dinner, coffee and a walk. And then someone says, just give me a stack of bills and walk away.
I love that person. Yes, I'm for it.
Amen. So what would you say?
So everyone's different. And I do encourage people to just like do something that they are feeling feels good for them. They feel confident in. For me personally, for first date, I do like, especially if it's an app date. So for me, it depends on if it's a date with someone that you have already met versus this is like the first time you're meeting face to face.
Totally.
So if we're speaking, this is a first app date, like we're just meeting for the first time face to face, I like to keep it really short and casual. I do like coffee and a walk because it's so casual and it's like, being on a walk, there's something to do. Like there's always something like see or talk about because you're like literally like, seeing new things every step that you take.
It's not like awkward direct eye contact.
Exactly. I also do like a bar situation because it's just a little sexier. Usually you go at nighttime, so it just makes it feel a little bit more romantic, where I feel like a coffee shop can feel, or like a coffee and walk daytime date can feel a little friend vibes. Like it automatically friend vibes. My friend, I think she's crazy. She likes to go on like to like a show, like a UCB show, like a improv or show for like a date. And I'm like, but there's you don't talk. And I feel like it's so awkward to like sit next to someone for like 2 hours that you haven't had like much of a conversation with.
Definitely not.
I don't get that at all.
I don't think movies or shows are
No, I'm
at
so
all.
against it. I'm so against it.
Same.
She's like, well, we can talk for like 10 minutes before and 15 minutes beforehand. I'm like, no, not for me.
I mean, it's one thing to like go to dinner and then a show.
Yeah.
Because then at least
But
you
even
talked
that
and then
for
you
a
can,
first date to me is like, it's too much.
it's too much.
But I will say, if we're talking about, if this is a first date and it's someone that you have met, whether you like met them on a night out and you talked a bit, or you met them at a speed dating event, so you had already matched together and spoken there, then I think that gives you leeway to have like a little bit of a longer first date. And at that point, I do think like a dinner date is appropriate as a first date. Eating with someone is like, it's very intimate.
Yes.
It's like, so it can be a little bit too much if it's like your first time ever hanging out.
Eating, just in general.
Well, not eating in general, but like a sit down dinner.
Yes.
You know?
Because then you can't get out of the situation as quickly as you'd want to.
Yeah.
There's that awkwardness of like splitting the bill at the end of the night. I mean, I think a man should always pay on the first date, but I don't know. It just like can lead to a lot of awkward situations, I feel
It can. And it's not I wouldn't say it's like a don't. It's not a hard don't. But if you are looking to kind of like make sure your time commitment can be not too much, then I would definitely go like, let's meet for a drink, or like, let's have a coffee and go for a walk.
But if you've met them prior,
then and you already
fine,
had
right?
chemistry, then yeah, go to dinner and see how things unfold.
Yeah, I like the like walking and talking vibe. I
Yeah.
feel like that's a good one. I like the activities. Like I remember I went on a mini golf date back in the day, and that was so fun because you can be like really flirty and kind of like give each other shit and be like friendly, competitive.
Yeah.
So I think that's really cute. Yeah, the museum one's fun too. Aquarium.
Yeah. I like that too. I like it's good to put yourself in situations, especially like, I mean, I think throughout your entire relationship, you should always be like doing new things together. But like when we're talking about early dating, I think like doing things that put you out of your comfort zone and put the other person out of their comfort zone, whether that's the same date or different dates, it's a really good way to learn about each other. But also I think it like helps you form a bond because like you're kind of uncomfortable and the other person's like helping you through it.
Yes.
So that is like a hack for like creating connection.
And it's almost like you're kind of maybe problem solving together, like see how they would act if you were, you know, like say you're going roller skating or something and you're not really great, like see their patience and how they would handle it when, you know, bigger life stuff comes up.
Yeah.
I mean, I think for the most part, everyone's always putting their best foot forward on a date. So it's maybe not always.
You'd be surprised, Shannon. You would be so surprised. When I was a matchmaker, like there was this, okay, so like this crazy thing would happen where people would, you know, they'd talk to the matchmakers and sometimes they'd just like tell you like way too much information. Like I think one guy was talking to me once about his like, he was trying to talk to me about his penis size.
Oh.
But I didn't really understand where he was going with it. So I kind of just tried to like move it along. So that's an instance of like someone giving me like TMI. But like,
wait, this was when you were the matchmaker?
Yeah. I was his matchmaker.
Okay.
Yeah.
He was like, just like sneak it in.
No. It was like, I think he was trying to say that he was really small.
Oh, okay. Well, you know, maybe you got to warn the ladies about that. What did he want you to do with that info?
He was giving me a lot of really strange info that I would not have been able to use. Because it's like, I'm not going to like there's certain things that you don't need to know on a first date.
No.
That get revealed with time.
Yeah.
And I think people sometimes don't realize that, or like they don't think that way. They're like, I need to tell you all of this stuff and then find me someone that like is going to be cool with all of this. And like that's just not how matchmaking necessarily works. Every time we had a client and we would search for matches for them, we would also interview the people that we were going to match them with. A lot of the times that person would say one thing to the matchmaker and then reveal absolutely opposite things in person on the date that like were not good. Like they'd be like, oh yeah, I'm unemployed. I've been unemployed for like a year. I don't know, like my life sucks. Like on the date, but like didn't say anything like this to the matchmaker. And it was so strange to me because I'm like, wouldn't you do the opposite? Like if anything, like maybe you don't want to reveal this at all. Fine, whatever. But why would you like suddenly just be like, yep, here's warts and all, first date. But like I didn't say any of this to the person who actually could have like screened properly for me and like introduced me to the right person that would have like been cool with this or not cool with this.
Yeah, like commit to the bit. If
Yeah,
you're going to pretend that you have a job, just pretend the whole
weird.
time. You're going to be a liar.
So weird. Like
Go
that.
all the way.
Yeah, exactly.
That's
It was
so
strange.
weird.
Because it's like you said, you think people are going to be on their best behavior, and it's not always.
And they're
not always
paying
the
for
case.
it. Like they're paying for the matchmaker, right?
The client is, but the match
Oh,
isn't
the other
necessarily.
woman.
Yeah,
Okay. Or the man.
yeah.
Well, that's good because then I would be like, are you fucking kidding me?
Yeah.
Now, how would you find these other people?
So some of them found us, right? Like they know the company and through marketing, whatever.
So, like, if you find someone for me, like, I'm available kind of thing?
Yeah, so a lot of matchmaking agencies, they have like their client pool, and then they have like a database of people who maybe don't get proactively matched, but if we have a client for them, then they get chosen that way to go on a date with the client.
And they're the ones that aren't paying.
They're either not paying at all or they're paying just a smaller fee because there's no guarantee
Like a
of getting.
membership or something.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
And then also matchmakers would actually recruit specifically for specific clients, like either through social circles, through LinkedIn. That was a big one. Dating apps, like literally
okay, yeah.
anywhere that there was singles, you could find a potential match for the client.
Interesting.
But it's very like, it was very like concierge based as well, where it was like, we're doing kind of all the pre-work for you, but you still have to show up and go on the date and like find that connection. So if you're someone who struggles like with an avoidant attachment or an anxious attachment, or you're someone who has like a lot of dating trauma, or just like you're so close-minded and you only like this one specific physical type, like we can't change that for you. So you have to kind of do the work too of like making yourself be open to connection.
Exactly. It's kind of like you can get a job, but then you have to show up to the job and do your
do the work. Yeah.
That's crazy. Well, also the other thing just about like it being with daytime dates that is nice is that there's not that pressure, I feel like, at the end of the night to like go home with the person. Because I feel like as women, a lot of times we do feel that like, oh shoot, it's scary sometimes to like say no.
I'm so like, don't touch me. That's the vibe I give off. Like,
even when you're really into them.
It's really, so I'm very like, I don't really feel super into someone until there's like more of an emotional connection, I feel like.
Yeah.
So, and I just like don't meet a lot of people that I'm like, I think are like hot. Like there's not a lot of hot people in the world these days.
There's not.
Right? Like it's not just me, okay? Like what are guys doing? Where are they?
The good ones are like in their homes with their wives. And kids.
Yeah, exactly. It's like that Sabrina Carpenter song where she's like, the good ones are deceased or taken.
Yeah. Or gay.
Yeah, exactly. No, but jokes aside, like I think that you are hitting on something important. Like safety is a thing, right? Like you should always make sure that you are in like a public place and like feeling good and feeling safe. I think that like if you are ever feeling as a woman pressure to like kiss someone, go home with them, this or that, I would say take a step back and like ask yourself where that pressure is actually coming from. Because a lot of the times it's pressure you're putting on yourself of what you think that person wants. And like, if that is all that they want, do you even want to go through with it? Like, do you want them?
Exactly.
And on the other side of that, that may not be what they're like aiming for or thinking is going to happen.
Right. It's just sort of like, oh, well, this is the next step, or oh man, they're probably going to kiss me at the end of the night. Like, I guess, are they going to ask me up? And I just remember, like, especially from my early 20s, like being like very nervous to ever like say no and hold my ground.
Yeah, I think being young too is like such a big part of that, of like feeling this pressure to like give, and like being a young woman, like such people pleasing pressure. And it's like, we're so conditioned to, as women, to just like make people happy.
Absolutely.
But don't do it at the risk of making yourself unhappy, or like, obviously if you're feeling it, go for it. Like, duh.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
But like doesn't even need to be said. But like, if you're not, then, like put yourself first and like make sure that you are checking in with yourself.
Exactly.
Yeah.
What do you want?
Yeah.
Well, actually, that also leads us perfectly into our first story. So I actually got this story from a TikTok that went viral.
So Gen Z of you,
isn't it? I'm so hip. I did get her permission, though, to use it. Her name is Her name is Hannah Rose.
I just got home from a date and I am nothing short of livid. This was our second date. It's like 10 p.m. because that's like once he got off work and I was like making myself available. We have a meal. We share a meal. I didn't even get my own meal. $41. Let's make that known. Then he's like, hey, do you want to go get a drink after? Okay, great. We go have a drink. We have a couple drinks. And the bartender's like, oh, same tab? He's like, yeah, sure. And I was like, okay, cool. Thank you. And I said, thanks for the meal and the beers. We walk outside. I'm expecting him to like kiss me. Right? He goes, oh, do you want to go back to my place? It's already 1:30 at this point. And that's just like not really my vibe. So I was like, no, you know, it's getting late. Not tonight. He looks at me and goes, okay. And turns around and walks to his car. Okay, so I go to my car and I'm thinking, okay, so we're probably done. Like, he probably just wanted to like have sex with me, right? This man has the absolute audacity to call me on my way home and goes, so what was the point of me paying for your meal and drinks then? I said, oh, well, if you couldn't afford the $41 and the $21 at the bar, I could have paid for it. He's like, obviously I can afford it, Hannah. I was like, I'm sorry, I didn't realize that this was a prostitution situation. I didn't realize that I had to fuck you after you paid for my meal. And he goes, that's not what I'm asking, but what was the point of me doing all that? I said, it was a second date. He's getting like hostile with me. And I was about to say, you probably should have just hired a prostitute. And then he hung up on me. And as I'm driving, he blocks me on my phone, blocks me on Bumble, blocks me on Instagram. I'm so annoyed. If I don't want to sleep with you on the second date, I'm not going to. It's even like an okay thing for someone to like express that like, I paid for your meal, now you have to fuck me. That's insanity to me. Are you kidding? I'm gonna delete every single app. I can't do this anymore.
Love that.
Can you fucking believe that?
Well, it's so funny because like I was already thinking it before she said it, where I'm like, if any guy, that's how he's feeling, like just get a prostitute.
Yeah,
like
literally.
If money equals sex to you, there's an easy fix for that.
Yeah.
Literally
it's
go
readily
buy
available.
it. Yeah. I think that like pretty much sums it up for me, is like, if you're paying for something with the goal of sex, there's a much easier way to do that.
Mm-hmm.
And you don't need to put yourself through a date.
Right. Yeah, exactly. One of the top comments on it was, and even if we were being transactional about it, you think I'd give it up for $60? I was like, so true. And then someone else said, why do they think we are this desperate for food?
I mean, a girl loves to eat. I will say that.
That's true.
But
free food tastes better, you know?
It does. It does. I don't know why, but it does. I think this sounds like very young people too, right?
Yeah,
like,
she seems young.
He's not worth the energy.
Mm-mm.
You know, he's not worth feeling stressed over. Like, it's frustrating 1000%. It's so offensive 1000%. It's annoying 1000%.
Mm-hmm.
But he's not worth it. Like, he clearly is like buying into that like toxic masculinity culture that like I think a lot of that like, or not a lot of that, but like some of that generation is like getting influenced by, like, isn't it? What's his name? Like
Andrew Tate.
Yes, Andrew Tate. I think he's just one of Andrew Tate's guys.
Yes,
you know?
absolutely.
So just like write him off as one of those guys and like sayonara. You can't change those guys.
I know. I mean, as you were saying, he is young, so hopefully like he would be able to change, but I don't think like you need to, it's not her job to teach him.
Exactly.
And I remember something kind of like this happened to me, like not fully, but I went on a second date with a guy and I had met him at a wedding, hooked up with him, and then like went on a first date with him and we had an amazing time.
Mm-hmm.
I was visiting a friend at the time. So then this wasn't someone that I was going to be like serious with. It was kind of like a little fling.
Yeah.
And it was like, oh, anytime I'd go and visit her, I'll get to see this guy. So we go on a second date the next time I'm there. And I just wasn't feeling it. Like, I think it should have just like stayed what it was, like that magical fun night at a wedding.
Mm-hmm.
And then, you know, like
there's something about weddings, right?
Like the love is in the air. There was just something about it. I just was not into it anymore. And I kind of felt that almost immediately, but I was like, all right, whatever. I was almost even going to be like, because we went and watched a sunset up on this like hill. And I was even going to be like, maybe let's like, you can just take me home. But then he was like, okay, you want to like, let's go to dinner. And I was like, okay, fine. Like, I do need to eat. I'm just going to offer to pay. Like, I'm just going to make sure that I
like,
pay
draw
for
a
it.
line in the sand kind of.
Yeah. So then we have dinner, and still again, like, it's just not, the chemistry is just gone. And then the bill comes and he's like, no, I got it. And I'd be like, no, I want to pay. And he was like, no, seriously, I got it. Like, you got a salad. It's not a big deal. And I was like, oh, okay, fine. He's like, you want to go get a drink? And I was like, okay. And then I paid for the drinks.
Right.
Because I was like, I just don't want him to, you know, because I really don't want to go home with him. And I'd gone home with him before. Like, I'd hooked up with him before. So then when we're on our way home, and again, like, and also, like, I went into the date with like a low cut top on, and I'm like pulling
you were really
it up.
excited.
Yeah, I was
to
really
start.
excited.
Okay. So it's also like, it's not even just that you weren't into him anymore. It's also like kind of a bummer for you at that point, because you had been excited, and then you're like, it's not there.
I like shaved everything. I was like pumped.
Yeah.
And then it just, I wasn't feeling, I was like literally pulling up my top, like trying to like not like, you know, I was not touching him or anything.
Yeah.
And then like when we're on our way home, he was like, okay, so like, you want to come back to my place? And I was like, oh, I think just like maybe drop me off at my friend's. We're hiking early in the morning.
Yeah.
And then he was like, oh, okay, well, that's cool. I mean, I guess it was cool, like, catching up with you then.
Yeah.
Like, just the way he said it was just like, what was the point of this then?
Yeah. Can I play devil's advocate?
Yes.
I think it was like also like one of those things where, because you didn't want to offend him. So you kept saying yes. Like, yes, we'll go to dinner. Right. Yes, we'll go to drinks. And like that whole experience, he's like thinking like she wants to keep hanging out with me. Right. So then it was like, it felt like a 180 to him, even though for you, the entire time you were like, I cannot wait to get out of this situation. Yes. So like, really, you kind of were like, there is no point to this, really. Like, I'm just going through the motion. And then he was kind of blindsided at the end. He was like, okay.
That makes sense. Yeah.
So I do understand it from that perspective. But like, I hope he wasn't a dick about it, because like that you don't deserve. And like, you can say no at any time. You can walk away at any time. Like, you have like total authority over that aspect. So like, he should never make you feel like you aren't allowed to end things whenever you want to end things.
Yeah. And I think he would have been fine with it. I think I was just like feeling uncomfortable.
Yeah, of
and
course.
Again, like, I just have always had issues with asserting myself.
Yeah.
And kind of like people pleasing, and just, I also think I stayed in it because I was like, maybe it'll get better.
Yeah.
Like, maybe once we loosen up, like,
totally
have a couple drinks, like get into it, then it'll be a little bit more fun, and we will like rekindle that moment. But it just wasn't coming.
Yeah.
And he definitely wasn't a dick about it, but it definitely was like, I mean, you know, I probably took the wind out of his sails, but it was just like, oh, well, yeah, I guess it was good catching up then. Where
he
it
was so butthurt.
Yeah,
so butthurt.
Yeah.
He's like listening to this right now. He's like, yeah, I'm still thinking about it, Shannon.
Years and years and years later.
No, but I think that brings up such a good point though too, of like the expectations around dating, because it's like you said, like, you're like, yeah, I do think guys should pay on the first date, and then it's like, okay, because like I like that too. I like the chivalry about that. But then it's like, I think also that kind of does date back to like when men had more ownership of women, right? Like, that's when that like traditions like that started. Right. And so I think like, I don't know, we kind of have to question like, okay, where do these traditions come from? Because we don't want to maintain the like that aspect of things. We want to have authority and autonomy over ourselves.
And like, we have our own money now. Like, it's not like back in the day where we literally weren't even allowed to have credit cards.
Right, exactly. However, I will say, I remember once someone made this point to me that I like to go by now, that like, actually a guy paying for the date is very feminist, because like, women, like, our outfit costs more than like yours, our makeup and hair, like, and yeah, we don't have to do all of that, but those kinds of things are still sort of societally expected of us.
They expect us to do that.
Yeah. So like, it's sort of just evening things out a bit. I think.
And plus, like, you know, historically they get paid more than we do still anyway.
They still do. Yeah, they still do.
So
but I'm really sorry, Hannah, that happened to you. That's
Oh, I would be so
It's
fucking
really
mad.
shitty.
I would be so fucking mad. What a douchebag. Because someone was like, he said, what was the point? And she goes, mutual attraction, a possible relationship.
Yeah.
I can't with these kind of guys. And then someone else said, at least he showed you in 2 dates who he is.
1000%. The silver lining is like just learning who this person is.
Yeah.
Because like you don't want to date this person.
Mm-mm.
And I mean, ideally, like I would love for people to show their true colors before we even meet. So
Exactly. Wasting my damn time.
Yeah. I mean, she could be asking the same thing. What was the point for her? Like, what's the point of me hanging out with you of like and like showing you my personality, showing you my charm, showing you my sense of humor
Mhm.
when you didn't care about any of that?
Yeah. I think it's also funny that he like blocked her. It's like, do you think she'd still want to talk to you after this? Crazy.
And that's the funny kind of like he sort of like hurt himself in this scenario because she was like, yeah, like I was down to kiss him, like I wanted to hang out with him again, like I was
Yeah.
feeling it, and he ruined it, which does tell me that like, yeah, he's not looking to date,
No.
he's just looking to hook up.
Yeah, he's just seeing it as completely transactional.
Yeah.
Another comment said, report him to Bumble for soliciting.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely would say yes. for
Yeah.
that.
Well, I'm really sorry that happened, but you
Unfortunately, like I
dodged a
think
bullet.
way too many women have had stories of like feeling like the guy was really only interested in hooking up and not really like getting to know them or.
Oh, for sure. I had a situation like that.
I
Definitely.
think
I
every
was
girl has
just talking
had
about
at
that.
least 4 probably, if
Yeah.
not more.
Yeah, and it's really and it's sad. It's really it really can hurt your self-esteem for sure. Even though it's not about you, but it just makes you feel like a piece of meat.
Yeah.
And exactly what you were saying, like she wanted to like have a little kiss at the end of the night. She was like, I thought he would kiss me and yeah, it's like it's 1:30. Like it's
Yeah.
already my
Yeah.
bedtime, past
Yeah,
my
yeah,
bedtime.
yeah.
I want to go home and
Yeah.
yeah, you're clearly just trying to hook up.
Yeah.
And she was dating to form a romantic connection.
Right.
I mean, maybe everyone needs to be more upfront about their intentions, I guess.
I think that a lot of the time, yes, that's true. I think that there are times when people do know their intentions and they don't say it because they think it's going to affect their
Oh.
chances.
Mhm.
But on the other side of things, that's like less malicious. I think that sometimes people just don't know what they're looking for.
Mhm.
They might think like, yeah, I'm trying to date. And then like that is what dating means to them.
Right.
Or they might think like, yeah, like if it's the right person, I'm down. But like if it's someone who I don't see as like relationship potential for XYZ reasons, whatever stupid reason, then like, yeah, I'm not gonna, date them, but I'm down to hook up with them.
Right.
So it can be any number of things. And that's what's so frustrating.
I feel like people can just be like very strange after dates of like how to communicate with each other. Clearly, this was like the worst way to do it, to just call her immediately. I mean, he was obviously like furious about it.
Him being like, what was the point of this?
Yeah.
Yeah. I think like aftercare when it comes to dates and like what each party is thinking and how each party is feeling is so interesting because when you go, I have heard from so many people, they'll like go on a date and be like, it went so amazing. Like we had such chemistry. We were laughing the whole time. We stayed out talking like until 2 a.m. Like nothing but
Yes.
talking. It was amazing. And then like I never heard from them again.
Crickets.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
And it's so interesting. Like there's such psychology around this of like, okay, what was that other person thinking? Like, why didn't they follow up?
Yeah. It's
So
like
I think-
it's almost like they just wanted some like crazy like movie moment. And then it was like, okay, I'm on to the next now.
It's like you never know what it was that like it's never about you. It's like, but you never really know. It's probably just something that they had in mind for themselves of like what they want in a partner. And it's like it's some arbitrary thing that you didn't fit into for some whatever reason. Or like maybe they felt like they revealed too much of themselves. So they're like, I'm gonna take a step back. You just don't know. You never know.
Mhm.
Or they just weren't looking for anything serious and they thought you wanted more. Like whatever.
Yeah. There's also like if you're not looking for anything serious, like don't stay up like all night emotionally talking to somebody, you know?
Oh my God. I had a rom-com story happen to me when I was traveling. And it was someone who I had like sort of known kind of for like a year or something, but we
Yeah.
hadn't really like hung out. We had only ever hung out in person like really once. I met him through his friend.
Mhm.
But like our hangout was more like business oriented. But one day we happened to like both randomly, we met in LA. We both randomly were in Austin at the same time.
Oh,
So we
fun.
hung out. We met up for a drink, and like I kind of knew that like he's the kind of guy who like every girl feels like a good conversation with and like good connection with. So I was like,
Just like
I
a
already
charming
had that
guy.
in my head. The reason I knew that is because he's been to one of my dating events and every girl like raved about him.
Oh yeah.
I knew that already, and I was just kind of like, yeah, it's just like a fun like meetup. And like we had hung out once before, and it was very like not flirty at all, like not even the
Oh.
tiniest bit flirty.
Okay, interesting.
So anyways, we meet up in Austin, and like it's so like fun, flirty, laughing vibes. Like 1 second we're like really deep, the next second we're like giggling, like so fun playing. We went to play pool and stuff. I was in town for work. He was in town because his friend had gotten married and they were doing like a party for their friends at a bar that night.
Yeah.
He invited me to come, so I like went out and had a lot of fun, like met all his friends and stuff. And then he wanted to keep hanging out, but everything closes in like Texas really early. So I was like, all right, like I'm just gonna go home then too. And he's like, okay, well, like I'm not gonna leave you on the side of the street because we had been walking for a bit. So he's like, I'll just have my like Uber drop you off. So we're in the Uber. This poor Uber driver is like listening to us like be silly and flirt, and he's like, why don't you just like come to my Airbnb? Like we'll just like watch a movie. And I'm like, I'm not gonna have sex with you. He's like, what? Why would you even? Why would you say? You think I want to do that? Like just so funny.
Like okay, the
so-
lady doth protest too much.
like so funny about it. But anyways, I go to his Airbnb and we literally just like stay up until 5 a.m. talking. Literally like just talking.
Yeah.
And
Not kissing?
Nope, nothing.
Not even like touching?
We cuddled a little bit at the end right before I left, but like
Okay,
pretty much no.
interesting.
Just talking, just having really deep conversation. The entire night he kept saying, I think we should date. Like I really want to date you, and like saying all this like really nice stuff about me.
Like love bombing a little?
Kind of. It was just very much like you're this and this. Like these are all amazing qualities. Like I really think we should date.
Was he talking about the future a lot? Like, oh, you should come here.
No. I mean, it was like one night we were just like just talking about our lives. But like he just kept saying like I think we should date. It was just that pretty much.
Like exclusively or just like start going on dates?
Yeah, it wasn't like let's get married or like let's be in a relationship. It was like I think we should like date.
Give it a try.
Exactly.
But how dare you think I want to fuck you?
But anyways, so I ended up seeing him again the next day, but it was like such like weird friend vibes from him, like such a 180. And he at the time wasn't living in LA anymore. He was living like a little further away. So he had moved, but it was just so weird because I'm like, bro, like last night was like romance,
So
like I like intense, like I want to date you, and then today you're acting like we are just bros. And I was like,
was it
so
because you were in
taken
front of
aback.
other people or something?
No, like we were alone.
It was
both
just you
times.
guys.
Yeah.
Okay, wow.
So it was weird. So all of that to say, like people can switch on a dime and do strange things, and like I think in that situation, because it was so intense, I think I probably would have appreciated him being like, hey, like he did say something about him being, he was like, I was really drunk. That's all he really said.
Oh, wow.
But like it wasn't like necessarily like, hey, by the way, the reason I was like so lovey-dovey was because I was drunk. It was just like, because he wasn't acting wasted. He wasn't.
Yeah.
He was just saying like, I like think you're, just nice things, and saying that I think we should date each other.
Wow.
And we were just having deep conversation. It was really fun and nice. So anyways, I think in that situation, like an explanation could have been nice. But I think like I've had situations on like an app date. I have two stories that are pretty similar. This happened with two different guys. And in both situations, I had a fine time with them. I would say it wasn't the best date ever. It wasn't the worst date ever. I wasn't attracted to either of them. I wasn't like, I'm appalled.
Yeah.
But I was like, I wasn't feeling like a pull.
Yes.
But I was very much in a place of like, okay, just let things grow. Like you don't have to feel it right away. You can just get to know someone, and it doesn't have to mean something from day one. Guy A, the one from 10 years ago, was so strange in that he, on our date, kept telling me that like he doesn't consider these dates, like when he meets someone, he always considers them first meetings.
Oh,
He's like, it's not a date, it's a
God.
first meeting, because it's like from an app, so it's just a first meeting. Anyways, we had like a fun time. I think he had fun with me. I left the date being like, yeah, that was fine. That was fun, whatever. I'm okay hearing from him. I'm okay not hearing from him. Like either way, I'm good.
Yeah.
So in a situation like that where it was so low pressure and so like low stakes because neither of us were like professing like great love for one another,
Yeah.
I didn't need to hear from him again. But he went out of his way to text me. I was at work. I remember when I started crying. He was like, hey, so we're not, I didn't feel it with you and we're not a match. And I was like so upset by that. That like hurt my feelings because it felt like a rejection I didn't ask for.
Right.
I think if I had like reached out being like, hey, I had so much fun. I'd love to see you again. Totally appropriate at that point. Like, please, of course, say like, hey, actually, like I'm sorry, like I didn't feel it.
Yeah.
But because that didn't happen, there was just no need. And it just felt like you kind of like going out of your way to sort of like reject me. It felt weird. I didn't like it. Really didn't like it. And then
maybe he was like doing it before you did or something, but it's like we
I
could
don't know.
have just ghosted each other. It wasn't that
I was
serious.
like, well, at that point, it's not ghosting. See, because I'm against ghosting.
Yeah.
But because if no one follows up, then it's not ghosting.
Right.
It's just going your separate ways.
Yeah, it's not ghosting because I am too. Like
Yeah.
I'm very against that. But I definitely think like like you were saying, if you reached out and then he didn't answer, like that's ghosting.
That's rude.
But it's like you both can just like not reach out to each other and then there you go.
I think context matters here, right? Because like we weren't like, I think if like he had said on the date like, hey, I really would love to see you again, like we should hang out again, and then changed his mind afterwards, then it would be appropriate to text me. But like we didn't end it like, hey, we'll see you again. Like it was nothing like that.
Yeah.
There was no like, oh, we should date each other. There was no like, so like it just was unnecessary in my opinion. But I'd be curious, like your listeners, like their opinion, because I know my friend thought it was like nice, and she like. I recently talked to her about it, shared the story, and she's like, oh, I would love that. And I was like, what?
No.
And I had like another guy more recently, a few years ago, kind of a similar thing where, you know, we left the date and I would have been fine hearing from him or not hearing from him. And he texted me and he was like, he said it so weirdly. He was like, so I'm assuming that like there's no connection for us and we can just move on. Something weird like that, where he sort of like put it in my court. And I was like,
wait, what did he say?
I don't remember exactly, but it was something like, I'm guessing or I'm assuming there's like no connection here for us or something like that.
Okay,
Yeah. And so
he was trying to get like clarification, I guess.
I don't think he was asking for clarification. I think he was just trying to close the story on us, but like making it as though like it was mutual or it was like my decision. I don't know. It was very weird. I didn't like it at all because he like sort of put words in my mouth for both of us, sort of thing. And I remember responding something like kind of putting it back on him, where I was like, maybe for you, for me personally, the way I'm dating right now is like I'm pretty just open to like just getting to know people and then deciding. But like, yeah, if you didn't feel it, then all good. I don't remember if he responded or not, but it was like a very strange way to do it. But kind of still going back to the same thing where I don't know that it's necessary to like if it's just been one app date. I don't think it's really necessary to
do a follow up.
Yeah,
I don't think so.
There wasn't
either.
like an intense interest on either side.
No, I think if it's like a few dates, then it's like, yeah, I just like I'm actually like realizing it's not really
for sure
for me.
Yeah,
like even that story that I was telling before with that guy, like after I left, you know, I was like, oh, you can just drop me off. Like neither one of us reached back out because it's like, well, clearly the chemistry's not there anymore or something, you know?
Yeah.
But part of me almost did feel like, should I text him and be like, sorry that was abrupt. Like, I'm not in a place anymore or like something. But I was like, I think like he got the point. So why like I'm not giving him really any new information.
Yeah, I think like if he had wanted an explanation and reached out to you for one, then it would have been appropriate to give him one.
Yes.
But since he didn't, like.
And it's like, okay, yeah, we both got our answer.
Yeah.
But I do kind of feel like with the one before, if it was like you guys were, you know, staying up till 5 a.m. and then the next day, neither one of you, like, you didn't see each other and you didn't reach out, it's kind of like, I do almost feel like there should be like an explanation then, because it's like, holy shit, that was like so intense.
Yeah. I think I would have appreciated a little bit more. I do wish, and I wish looking back that I had sort of called it out more, but I think I felt vulnerable and so I didn't. But I do wish that like sort of 180 had been called out of like, okay, what was that compared to like the way that you're acting now? That's weird. Let's talk about it.
Yeah.
I love calling men out. That's like my favorite hobby.
I love that for you. I've gotten better about that as I've gotten older too. Well, we do have another question from a listener. I have a crush on one of my friend's friends. We all hang out, play board games together, go out on the town, and we seem to have a lot of chemistry. He was texting with me a lot and seemed like he was interested. He's so damn cute and charming. I really want to go out. Well, I was tired of waiting for him to ask me out, so while we were actively texting, I said we should get a drink sometime. But at that exact same moment, he sent me a photo, and I think he missed my text because he never acknowledged it. And we kept just texting about the photo and other things.
Mm-hmm.
Now I feel like I can't shoot my shot again because I already tried, and in case he did see it, I feel weird asking again. What should I do? I am dying to go out with him, but he's not making the move. Yet he keeps texting me and flirting in person. The sexual chemistry is off the charts.
It's charged up.
It's charged, baby. It's off the charts. SOS. It seems like guys these days just do not ask girls out anymore.
This is what I always hear from people. This is kind of mean, but like the guys that girls want to ask them out don't ask people out.
Mm-hmm.
And then the people who do approach or ask you out are like strange man.
Yes. Wait, this happened to me last night actually, but it was so sweet though. We went out for Jake's birthday last night and I was talking to Jackie, his girlfriend, and then like mid convo this guy comes up and he was so sweet. He was like probably in his mid to late 20s. I guess he had like little glasses. He was like kind of on the dorky side, but he like comes up and he's like, hi, and we like turn and we're like, oh hey, like what's up? And he's like, I just wanted to know if you would want to go out on a date with me.
Oh.
It was so cute. And I was like, oh, sorry, I have a boyfriend, but thank you. And he's like, oh, yeah, no problem. Thanks. Like, and just walked away. And I was just like, oh, I love that. And I was like, okay, this is like good news to hear that. It seems like some men are asking women out.
Yes.
And he took it on the chin. Like, he was just like, oh, okay, sounds good.
I think one thing I will say, and I like that he was like respectful about it and that he like took a no and it was all good, right?
Yes.
And you felt flattered, right?
Yeah.
I think it's so interesting for women to get judged on like judging a guy for his looks that's approaching, being like, oh, that guy's not attractive, so I'm going to say no. Because why is the guy approaching you? He's approaching you based on your looks.
Yeah.
He's not approaching you for any other reason.
Right.
So you get to judge back on his looks. And I feel like women like aren't allowed to. And it's like, why? We're being judged.
Yeah.
That's why you're coming up to us.
True.
There's no other reason. You're not seeing my personality. Why do you want me to get to know you?
Interesting. I never thought of that before.
Yeah,
that
it
makes
pisses me
sense.
off.
Yeah.
I had a guy approach me. I was walking in San Francisco and this guy came up to me. I had no makeup on. I was in like baggy clothes. No, not baggy clothes. I was in jeans and a t-shirt. No makeup. He comes up to me and he's like, hey, like I'm doing like an art exhibit down the street. I saw you and I wanted to come over here because I just thought you were like so beautiful. And I was like, okay, like thank you so much. Like just trying to be really nice. And he's like, so can I make a friend? Like, can I get your number? I was like, no, I'm like actually in a really huge rush, but thanks so much. I appreciate you. I was not flattered because I was in a hat and sunglasses. You usually when people say that you're beautiful, I feel like they mean your face, but he was talking about my ass because he's coming at me from the side. He did not see my face.
Right.
I was fully covered.
Yeah.
So you're going to tell me that I'm beautiful? No. You're just trying to get at my ass. And then I was like, okay, I'm walking alone. Like now and he's right next to my car. Now I'm like feeling uncomfortable when I have to come back around to my car. Puts me in an awkward situation. I feel vulnerable. I feel uncomfortable. So I think like the where and the how you do it is so important in these situations. And also like if a girl isn't engaging, like let her engage back with you before you start asking for her number, right? Because I'm not sitting there being like, yeah, like you're so handsome. Like tell me about your shirt, tell me about your exhibit. I'm just like, okay, thank you. And like kept walking.
Yes.
So like if you are a guy who's like, hey, how can I start approaching women in the wild more? Which is kind of the opposite of what we're talking about. But I am gonna give the advice.
Yeah, totally.
I think like context is really important and picking up on cues is really important. Because like I think what the guy in your situation did right was that you were in a public place, you were with your friends, so like you weren't gonna be in an uncomfortable situation, and then he just like dropped it.
Yes.
Whereas like maybe you would have been uncomfortable if like a guy approached you when you were alone and like you kind of were in an awkward situation afterwards. So
Mm-hmm.
and then also like just kind of being more upfront about the approach too. Like you can be like, yeah, or like if you want to be less creepy, I think complimenting something like their smile or like really like you have really cool shoes on, like that's just like less puts you on display, I think.
Right.
And also it kind of shows like, oh, there is something specific about you that I think is really alluring versus like, oh, you were just hot, so I walked over.
Right.
But
That makes
anyways, getting
sense.
back to this girl, I went on a tangent.
No. I started the tangent, so.
I would have probably just like replied to that comment that I made and done like the PPI emoji and been like, so when like did you see this?
Yeah.
But clearly the moment has passed.
Yeah, I think it's been a little while now.
I would kind of ask, I don't know about how you feel about getting your friend involved in this, but I might ask the friend for a little bit of tea of like why, like how is he usually with people that he likes, like what's his backstory, get some information there.
Yeah.
Because why isn't he at this point? If you guys are like constantly texting and flirting, this is like
right.
weird actually.
Yeah, like why isn't he making the move?
I would ask. I would literally just be like, why haven't you asked me out? That's what I would say.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think there's a way you can do that in like kind of like a cute and flirty way. Like
I think that is cute and flirty. Why haven't you asked me?
Yeah, why haven't you asked me out? Yeah. I'm
exactly.
waiting.
The way that you did it exactly with like the kind of like
like cute
side-eyed. Yeah.
It does suck because I think like she probably felt vulnerable even
totally
being the one
it
to do it
is.
of like, hey, like let's get a drink, and then he either ignored it or didn't see it. I don't think he ignored it either. I think he just didn't see it. And then it's like, fuck, like the timing of that sucked so bad. I finally got the courage to just like do that, which I guess it's like maybe the tiny little lesson learned there is like maybe wait for like the conversation to be settled down, because it sounds like they were like, you know, when you're actively texting someone and it's almost like you're on like Messenger, like AIM, like, you know, back in the day where you're like fully talking.
Yeah.
It's not just like replying and then like a couple hours go by and then you reply.
Yeah.
So maybe like for the future, if you have to do something like this again, like wait for the conversation to like settle down or kind of be over, and then it's like, oh, let's get a drink.
I would say my advice would be like get a little bit of tea if you can from the friend, just to put your mind at ease before you put yourself out there again. But then like if you want, like next time, I would do it in person next time. Bring it up.
Yeah.
But also think of it this way. You could be setting a standard here where you're always having to take the lead. Maybe he's the kind of person who's just like needs you to do that first move and then like he's got it after there. Or he could be someone who like constantly needs to be like told to like, okay, now we're gonna do this now. Yeah. So do you want to put yourself in that situation is the question.
Yeah, that makes sense. I do feel like that I've heard from a bunch of my friends, and I do even remember this from like, 10 years ago, of feeling like, what I was saying, like Max really stood out because he actually like asked me out on a proper date, and always just being like so frustrated of like, even on the dating apps, it would like go to text messages and then it's like, oh my God, like, can we just make a date here? And I did oftentimes feel like I was the one taking the lead, and it is just like, it's exhausting.
Yeah.
So men out there, if you're listening, all of my straight male listeners, all 5 of you who are not already in relationships, so probably 2 of you, just ask the girl out. Ask her out on a proper date.
If this girl is like, you're texting constantly, you're hanging out, you're vibing in person, like there's really no murky line of like, I don't know if she likes me. Like, just do it.
Yeah, just do it. Clearly there's chemistry. And like,
Yeah.
I don't know, just reading the story, I'm just like, oh, like it's so exciting. I don't know. That I always feel like that beginning stages of when like you're just friends.
Yeah.
And like you're flirting with each other. But then I think it does get to a point where it's like, okay, like we need to like shit or get off the pot.
Exactly.
But it is like so exciting in the beginning. You're like playing board games and probably like flirting and stuff. It's just like, oh God, I miss those days. I'm yearning
Keep us
for
posted.
them. Yeah, I'm so curious how it turns out. All right, so let's wrap it up with a story here. A couple months ago, I matched with Anna on Bumble. I thought we vibed really well. She had a really nice and funny demeanor, and we had lots of engaging conversations on FaceTime. We set up our first dinner date last week. I proposed a really nice restaurant, which was sort of far away from where we lived, but I wanted to treat Anna because I thought she was special. Anna asked if I could pick her up and then after the date drop her off at her best friend's place. I didn't mind at all. Anna said she had movie night with her best friend. The date went better than expected. Anna also had drinks since I was the designated driver. However, right at the end of the night, Anna asked about dropping her off at Josh's. I was initially confused and then realized Josh was her guy best friend. Anna instantly realized what she said, and it sort of became awkward. She apologized, and I told her there was no reason to. I was just curious about who Josh was, so I asked her, and she said that he was her guy best friend, and they occasionally have movie nights. Anna said she wanted to be honest with me because she really liked me and saw a future with me, so she admitted they sometimes make out during these movie nights, but it doesn't go further than that. I appreciated Anna's honesty, but this whole thing felt like a huge gut punch. I was maybe in my feelings, but I just couldn't do it anymore. I told Anna to ask Josh to pick her up. I paid for my portion of the dinner and left. She looked really sad when I ended the date. I felt sort of guilty about it later and called my sister to ask if what I had done was right. My sister said I shouldn't have left Anna stranded at the restaurant, especially after she was really sweet and honest with me. How could I be expected to take her to a really fancy dinner and then drop her off at her best guy friend's house, where she would then make out with him? I had enough self-respect left not to do that.
Wow, this is so layered.
Yeah.
This is layered because I think this went from let me drop her off at her best friend's house to let me drop her off at her friends with benefits house, actually.
Yes, exactly.
So I do empathize with that. I think like that was out of line for her to ask of him.
Yeah.
I also think maybe she didn't need to tell him because it was so early
No.
on.
She did not need to tell him this.
So I do kind of have to put a little bit of ownership on her for the way that she handled that. That said, I don't think he should have stranded her there. I don't think he should have if he had committed to taking her, dropping her off somewhere. He drove her there. He was her only ride.
And
That's
he said
so
it was
uncool.
far away
That's
from
so
where
uncool.
they lived.
Yeah.
Not okay to leave her stranded.
Yeah.
You don't want to leave a woman just like in a compromising position. I mean, I was talking about this a few weeks ago on the college episode, but when my guy friends would leave me at parties, and it was just like, come on, you have to have a little bit more awareness of what life is like for a woman in the world than a man. And I mean, she was at a nice restaurant. I doubt anything really bad would have happened to her. And, we have Ubers these days, but it is like you are punishing her for being honest. But as we were saying, I don't think she needed to tell him about that.
Yeah, I think men really take for granted how scary certain situations can be for women. And they just don't always think about it. Mm-mm. And it's like, just have a little bit more awareness. Put yourself in someone else's shoes for once in your life. At the point that you agreed to pick her up, you were her sole ride at that point. Mm-hmm. I don't care what she did. The strikes against her, it's shitty, but it's not shitty enough to like abandon someone somewhere. Yeah. Like, I think the only time that would have been a thing is if she was like a danger to you, right? Like if she was attacking you in some way, leave her at the restaurant. But no, that's not what happened. If let's say the date went poorly and you weren't interested in her anymore, would you have done the same thing? Would you have just left her there? Like, this is kind of going back to a date being a transaction in a way. Like, was the ride solely if things went well for you guys? Is that the only reason you were offering the ride in the first place? Or were you offering the ride because you wanted to make a nice date for her? Because it seems like at the point you decided to ditch her, it was less about, hey, I want to take her on a nice date, and more like, oh, what can I get out of this? Mm-hmm. Oh, I'm maybe not getting what I want out of it. Okay, I'm going to leave her here.
Right. And I do think like what she did was like kind of shitty. I mean, and we'll get to that, but just like even having him like drop you off at your friends with benefits is like kind of, it's not cool. I don't think. But you invited her out to this dinner. You took her to a fancy restaurant, and then you only paid for your portion of the bill.
Yeah.
Who knows that she could even afford her portion of it? I mean, you chose to pick a fancy dinner.
Regardless, what pisses me off is like, okay, regardless of how you feel about who pays, like, I think if a guy asks you out and chooses the restaurant, he has to pay at that point.
I think so too. No, I agree.
I've had that happen where a guy, I didn't want to go to dinner. I wanted to just, it was a first date. I wanted to just grab a drink. He's like, let's go to dinner. He picks the restaurant. Then he has us split the bill. And then he had the audacity to ask me out again.
Wow.
I was like,
you're like, really?
I literally was like, I actually am looking for someone who like wants to treat me. I told him like,
what did he say?
I don't think he responded after that.
Yeah.
I was just like, yeah, I'm looking. I said it in a nice way, but I was kind of like, that was like the turn off. Well, I also wasn't super into it.
But I do think that the way that he reacted was a little red flaggy.
Oh,
to me.
super red flag.
Because
it's like a guy who's not super secure. I'm not in agreement with what she did.
Same.
I think what he could have done if he wanted to stand his ground has been like paid the bill and said, look, I'm not comfortable taking you to essentially your friend's benefits house. I will take you back home and you can figure out how to get to his place from there. That could have been more appropriate.
Yeah, or just fully do it and then you walk away like with your head held high. Like you felt like shit after you did. Like he's like, yeah, I felt guilty about doing it. Where it's sort of like, you know, that thing of when you out villain the villain, or like then you do the worst thing and now you're not the victim anymore. Like you could have walked away as the bigger person of just like, and then been like, wow, well, that's clearly not the woman for me. Like I wouldn't want to go on a date with someone who had like a backup plan right after me.
Right.
Who's clearly in kind of like a weird, messy situation.
It's so messy. Yeah. But I do think that I like the idea of him just like stating, like being honest though too, of being like, I don't like this. Like this is making me uncomfortable. I think he has every right to tell her that, because that could have been an opportunity for them to like sort of see how they can problem solve together as well.
True.
And see like, hey, actually, is there potential here? You're in this situation. Really, it doesn't affect our relationship if we want to pursue something and you're like, I'm done, like I can cut that off.
Yeah.
But I will say, like, okay, would you then be comfortable with her continuing that friendship, or like would she have to end the friendship?
Exactly.
How would you feel like if it was like genders reversed?
I know. I was literally just gonna say that. Like I was just thinking about it because I would be upset. I'd be like, oh wow, like really? I'm taking you to like go make out with somebody.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I would not be happy at all. I really wouldn't.
Would you
I'd
be okay with
pissed.
like if he was like, I'm not gonna hook up with her anymore, but I want to date you. Would you be okay with them staying friends?
Well, I think if he said that in that exact moment and he was honest, and I would be like, then why am I dropping you off at her house? Like, why aren't we continuing to hang out? Like, you already had this backup plan to hang out with this woman, and who even knows where the night would have gone? Not to say I'm going to sleep with you, but we could have gone and had, you know, or we could have watched a movie and made out. Like, what the hell?
In general, let's say this situation existed, but you wanted to keep dating down the line, and he was like, I'm not going to hook up with this girl anymore, but we're going to stay friends. Are you comfortable with that friendship?
I mean, I think so. I think so. I mean, I would hope I could trust him that he's not going to do that anymore. I don't know that I wouldn't want them like having these movie nights anymore. I wouldn't really be okay with that.
So would you police the friendship in some way?
Probably. Like, I do think I would be like, I don't necessarily want you guys hanging out alone. I mean, unless you can really tell me that it's just strictly platonic. I think I would want to know their history. Like, were you guys friends before? And how did the making out start?
Yeah.
Why were you only just making out and not having sex?
Why didn't you try dating? Like,
yeah.
What is, it's strange.
And are you guys like just mutual friends? And then like, where did these movie nights come from? Like, I would just have like a lot of questions to then be comfortable.
And also, is it like, are they always making out? Because it's like, she kind of made it seem like they just hang out, and then sometimes the movie nights lead to making out. It's not like every time you watch a movie, we make out.
Yeah. So it's like, but why?
So confusing.
I've never had a relationship like this before. Like I've definitely had platonic guy friends who like I've had sex with, but it would be like drunkenly just fun, like out, and it wouldn't be every time we hung out by any means.
Right.
It was like literally 3 times in the 3 years that we were friends.
Right.
But yeah, like just the making out. So are you guys just friends or what? Well, I don't get it. I think I would just be really confused, and I think it would just like definitely off put me, like this whole thing of like you're having me drop you off there. It was just like really getting started on the wrong foot.
Does the gender change things for you? Like if he was like, I just want you to drop me off at my guy friend's house versus I want you to drop me off at my friend that's the girl's house that I also occasionally make out with.
Mm-hmm. Well, first of all, I would never be dropping a guy off on a first date. They're picking me up, okay? But I guess if for
in
some
this
reason,
fantasy world where like we're
He
in
didn't have
like
a car.
backwards day.
No, I don't think it would bother me. I think I would kind of. Actually, I do think it would, because I'd be like, well, why don't you want to continue the date? Like we could go and hang out. You know, if this was like a situation where it was like, oh, I already had plans, like we're going out for my
right.
best friend's birthday.
Right. I think I thought it was just like that's where she was like I'm gonna have a sleepover tonight at my best friend's house after our date. So at first it all sounded very innocent and normal, and then things took a crazy turn.
Yeah. I had a situation almost kind of like this in college. So my parents lived like 15 minutes from my university in Arizona. And so I'd hang out with them. I think I lived with them this year. And I randomly met this guy at a Halloween party and we started hanging out. But it was platonic. But when we met at the party, you know,
what was his costume?
What was his costume? I remember mine.
What was yours?
I was like a slutty Little Red Riding Hood.
Cute.
And like I looked like
was
my
he
boobs
a
were
wolf?
out and everything. No.
He's like, I just knew it was meant to be.
Yeah, it was. But like he would ask me to, like, we would smoke and like go get food and hang out and stuff. I just like wasn't like that attracted to him. And then it just sort of felt like, oh, like we're just like friends. Like we're platonic friends, because anytime we'd go to get food, he would never pay for me.
Did you ever hook up at any point?
No.
Okay.
Not like at the night or anything.
Got it.
Like we were just friends. And I was kind of like, oh, this is weird that like I guess for me, there was a time in high school too where this guy asked me to go to a baseball game, a Phillies game, and then he like paid for my food. So I was like, oh, okay, like I do think this is a date. Like honestly, guys, that is an indication of if it's a date or not. If you're not footing the bill for the first date, it becomes like a platonic friendship.
Yeah.
Michelle Branch was doing this like concert in downtown Phoenix. It was like the 100-year anniversary of Arizona or something. And so I invited him to come with my mom and I.
That's cute.
And so she picked us up. We go to the concert, and then I wanted her to drop him off first, so then I didn't have to tell her that she was dropping me off at this sushi restaurant. Because like I didn't want him to
know that you were going somewhere else.
I had
after.
other plans.
Got it. Okay.
And it was just with one of my girlfriends, but then like some of our guy friends who were in a frat, and like other guys can't go to frat parties unless they're in the frat.
Right.
We're in the car and she's like, well, wait, Shannon, where am I dropping you off? And I was like, oh, like the
Mom, keep it cool.
Like, Mom. I'm like, oh, that sushi restaurant. And like, well, I mean, I could go for sushi. Like,
no.
And I was like, oh, well, I mean, actually, like because the sushi spot was closer than his place. So it would have made more sense. Yeah. So I was like, oh, well, I'm like going to a frat party and guys like can't come to the frat party. And so my mom's like, oh, well, I'll just drop you off the sushi spot. And then she has to drop him off. So then the two of them are like, he's sitting in the back seat while she's like driving him to his spot after I get
Uber
dropped
driver.
off. And I like call her after. I'm like, Mom.
Yeah.
I was like, how are you not getting those hints? She's like, well, I didn't know, you didn't tell me. Because I think around that time I was sort of feeling like maybe he is liking me and like maybe I'm giving him mixed signals and stuff. And then the next day he did call me and he's like, what was that about? Like, I'm really confused about our friendship. Like, kind of thought we were like hanging out that way. But then he's like, I did talk to my sister and my dad about it. And they were saying like, you know, well, have you paid for her for anything? And he was like, I did realize like maybe I've been friend zoning myself. And so anyway, and then we never hung out again.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, honestly, props to him for like asking you and like having just like an upfront communication with you about it and like being self-aware. Like I think that's all like really good on him, especially at that age.
Yeah, and like asking other people,
Yeah.
and then like realizing, yeah, maybe I should
Yeah.
have been a little bit more
Good learning
communicative.
experience. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, well, we do have an update here.
Oh.
Since I left Anna at the restaurant last week, she texted a couple of times, but I just ignored those
Oh my gosh.
messages. I opened the messages a couple hours ago and was sort of surprised. Instead of lashing out at me, she just apologized again and said that she was willing to stop seeing Josh if it meant we were going to continue our relationship. She said after the dinner, she just took an Uber back home and didn't go to Josh's. I texted Anna that there was no reason to apologize and I shouldn't have left her stranded at the restaurant. I should have also paid for her meal since I was the one who invited her to an expensive restaurant. I asked her for her Venmo, but she said that she didn't care about the money and asked if we could continue our relationship. However, I didn't have the same feelings for Anna anymore, so I just texted Anna up front that I didn't think we were compatible and I don't want to continue this. We chatted a bit more and she was very respectful of my decision, but admitted that she was sad. I, too, admitted it was tough, but it's for the best that we don't continue. That was the final text, and I definitely think there were some valuable lessons learned from this entire thing.
I don't like him.
Yeah.
That's my takeaway. He gave me the ick on that, to be honest. And then with Anna, I was like getting such like people pleaser vibes and like maybe not totally comfortable in herself and not totally secure in herself, because I think like, girl, why do you want to date this guy? He literally abandoned you at a restaurant.
Stranded you.
Yeah.
And it's like, I understand that what she did was not the best either. Like she probably was like reflecting back and being like, oh God, like that was dumb of me to do that. But that doesn't mean that like if he was a good guy,
that's not what
then
he
wouldn't have done that.
Yeah.
So then I think you can just count your blessings that you saw his true colors earlier.
Yeah.
Because imagine if something worse happens in your lifetime of your relationship, like the way he's gonna react is like to fucking leave you high and dry somewhere.
Preach, sister.
Amen. So, but yeah, I definitely think that she should not have been using him as a ride to drop her off at her friends with benefits. But
let me get a nice dinner and then I'm gonna have my date be my driver to go hook up with someone else, and it's all gonna be fine. Like he's gonna totally understand.
It's honestly iconic.
She's
to yourself.
She's giving main character energy for sure.
She is, and I love her for it. But it is kind of good that this happened because I think you did see his true colors, but clearly, I mean, she's kind of not seeing that way. Like you were saying, I think it is kind of people pleasery vibes, and like she's almost like wanting to like win his affection back.
Yeah. I think she's like beating herself up a lot, and like to the point where she's taking more ownership than giving him that, where like he also needs to have ownership in this and in this situation.
She wasn't holding him accountable at all, although he did apologize.
But he apologized after she apologized.
True.
Which that's different.
Yeah, he should have reached out earlier.
Yes.
I mean, especially after he talked to his sister, and his sister was like, yeah, you shouldn't have done that. And he should have been like, I'm so sorry I reacted that way. I was really upset.
No,
and
yeah,
like, I felt used or whatever.
He was avoiding the situation. He wasn't reading her texts because he thought that she was going to be pissed at him. So he didn't take accountability. The only reason that he backed off was because she was like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. I still want to date you. Like, I'll stop seeing him.
Yeah. Yeah, you're right. He got what he wanted. Yeah. So then he's like, okay, well then I guess I can apologize too.
Yeah.
But I wasn't planning to.
Yeah.
Loser. So whose side are we on? I guess hers.
I'm on her side.
Yeah.
I mean, she already knows that she fucked up with that. She took accountability. We're all human. She made a human error. She apologized. And she was like, I won't see him. Like she went above and beyond to try and rectify the situation.
And also the thing too is that I actually do think it is kind of good, like on a first date, to have an out. Like,
yeah, for sure.
To be like, oh, well, I have plans after. So I do actually think that was okay for her to do that. I just don't think she had to be like as honest as she was for a first date.
I think the only reason she said it was because she liked him and she wanted it to be like this like bonding moment of like, I'm going to be honest with you. Like, this is what's going on. And I think it was like she just spoke without really thinking about the consequences of sharing this information.
Well, also she might not have even
realized how intense.
Well, that he was going to react. But also I think that maybe she wasn't meaning to give as much info that she did, but she let it slip that it was to Josh's. Because at
Right.
first she was just calling him her best friend.
Right, but I think the issue was less that he was a guy and more that it was a guy that she hooks up with
Right.
sometimes.
Yeah.
Which like she didn't really need
No,
to
you
share.
didn't need to share that. You can have platonic besties.
Because also I didn't necessarily take it as like she was gonna go hook up with him that night.
Mhm.
Like that wasn't the impression I got. That would be really, really iconic behavior. But
Yes.
like, I think she was saying like we do have a history of this,
Yeah.
which I think. Okay, let me ask you this:
Yeah.
if this was now like date 7.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think this is something that he should be aware of, or do you think it can go to the grave if she stops hooking up with him?
I think if she stops hooking up with him, it's not something he needs to know. Although, I mean, Max and I are very open about like, you know, who we hooked up with in the past. Like he knows that I've like hooked up with his best friend in the past before I knew him.
Yeah.
And so we're very open about that. I know some partnerships don't like to know that. It's like, don't ask, don't tell. I
Yeah.
don't need to know about your past because they get a lot of jealousy.
Mm-hmm.
I personally don't have that. And I would actually rather know that he used to like make out with his girlfriend just so like I have context and I'm not like coming into a situation where I kind of look like a fool, that there's like this secret that happened.
Right,
I would rather know, but I don't think she necessarily like has to if he's the type of guy that wouldn't be okay with that. But then I guess if you are hanging out with them alone, I think that he should know that.
Yeah.
If you're continuing to hang
Yeah,
out with them alone platonically, I think he should know about the past.
Yeah.
Do you feel that
Just
way
make
too?
sure. It's like so. It feels so complicated, and it's hard for me to fully relate because I've never had a situation like that with
Mhm.
someone. It kind of goes into the whole thing of like, can straight men and women be friends?
Yes.
And
we're gonna
like,
do a whole episode on this.
oh, you are?
Yeah.
Okay, I cannot wait to hear it. I definitely have so many thoughts, and I think like you should save it for the episode. But I just think it's like a good segue into that, because for me personally, I kind of look at it as like if context matters of like how did the relationship start?
Right. Totally. Absolutely agree. Yep. And I do think, well, yeah, we'll talk about it, but I do think it's like, at what stage in your life did you meet
Mhm,
them?
mhm.
And because I think when you're like schoolmates and stuff, it makes sense to. But then like, I don't know, just like in my current day, I'm not really making like platonic straight friends.
And I also feel like, can you be considered platonic friends if there is attraction on one side?
Yeah, probably not.
So that's always like, if the guy would hook up with you, is he really your friend?
Yeah. Yeah, that's true.
So.
Well, more on that in an episode sometime in the near future. But thank you so much for joining me today.
Of course.
Tell everyone where they can find you.
You can find me on Speed Date LA on Instagram and TikTok. And then if you just want to follow my personal account, it's Nia_Boyce, so NIA_BOIS. I plan events. I am a matchmaker, and I'm also a singer and actress. So you can also check me out on Spotify.
Oh, okay. I'll link all of that. Oh my God, I haven't heard any of your songs.
Oh God, yes. You got to hear them.
Oh my God, yes. I'll put them on the car when I'm on my way home.
Perfect.
Well, thank you guys so much for listening. And remember, you can't spell drama without D.